Politics of the Paleolithic. 17 days out from a potential government shutdown, you might optimistically hope for some bipartisan spirit to flare in Washington, but not last night at the Naval Observatory. Vice President Biden was throwing some harsh words at some members of the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, ones who didn't support his signature legislative achievement, the recently renewed Violence Against Women Act. Take a listen.
But surprisingly, last year, we ran into this sort of Neanderthal crowd that, no, I mean it. No, I'm serious. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, did you ever think we'd be fighting over, 18 years later to reauthorize this?
Literally Neanderthals. Literally Neanderthals. Let's bring in our panel to talk about it. Senior editor of the National Review, Ramesh Ponnuru, from the Washington Post TV's In Play, Jackie Kucinich, and CNN political contributor and Democratic strategist Paul Begala. Ramesh, do you chalk this up to a Bidenism, or do you think that this is indicative of a problem we're going to have as we try to avert a government shutdown, the attitude that the Obama administration has to the House Republicans, and, of course, vice versa, I should add?
Well, I think the vice president was saying what was on his mind.
As he does, as is his wont.
I don't think Republicans are going to hold a grudge based on it. I think they're going to say that's Biden being Biden. They take him seriously as a negotiator. They don't particularly take what he says in public all that seriously. They just think he flies off the handle.
Paul, is there something deeper going on here? Because we are, I mean, all the attention's been on Syria, but we are approaching a very perilous economic time right now with this government shutdown.
We're 17 days away from a government shutdown. I think Ramesh is right. The House Republicans, first off, it's an insult to Neanderthals. I would go back a little earlier, Homo erectus. I'd say Homo erectus, which was more primitive than Neanderthals. But the truth is, and I actually do have friends and sources in the Republican Party on the Hill. They like Joe Biden. They like dealing with him. They feel like they can negotiate with him and make a deal with him. Frankly, they don't like the president. I know they don't like him politically. They don't even like him personally. So Biden has actually been quite a good ambassador. I don't think that this comment drains that goodwill. They like him. He's a creature of the Hill, and he knows how to cut a deal with them. So I think this is not going to hurt Biden.
Jackie?
I think at this point it's a little premature to talk about the negotiations with the president, since House Republicans are kind of negotiating within themselves at this point when it comes to continuing resolutions and all of that. But no, the relationship has never been good, and you see that spike ever so often every time we have one of these deals. So what this means is basically I'm going to be standing in a hallway very, very late on September 30th.
And this does come at a time also, John Carl at ABC News just reported this afternoon that even though President Obama said in his speech to the nation Tuesday night that he had discussed delaying the vote with congressional leaders, that neither Speaker Boehner nor Eric Cantor, the House Majority Leader, both House Republicans, had been consulted in any way. And obviously, I'm sure they're not happy about that. This comes at a time when relations with Congress are odd, to say the least.
Well, and the Republican leaders had stuck their necks out supporting the president on Syria beforehand. That is a complaint you hear about a lot, that the president has not invested the time to try to build relationships, and this is just another example. It's a very important example, though.
But Paul, I mean, I'm sure you would argue the White House's perspective is these guys don't want to deal with us.
Yeah, but he has to consult and not just inform. I mean, this is legitimate criticism, honestly. As you point out, the Boehner and Cantor, who disagree with the president on almost everything, stepped up early and supported strikes in Syria, despite the fact that the country as a whole and their party especially hates them. And I do think they were owed real consultation. I don't know if it makes them feel any better, but you hear the same thing from the Democrats on the Hill, too. Now, some of it's just the normal separation of powers. Okay, where I worked on the Hill and I've worked in the White House, there are always tensions that even transcend party. But I think this president especially has got to do more personally. He's got quite a good staff. His chief of staff comes from the Hill. They like him a lot on the Hill. But there's nothing like hearing from the president himself, and I do think he's got to engage more directly.
Speaking of hearing from the president, President Obama hasn't really talked much about, or at least publicly, about Vladimir Putin's op-ed in the New York Times. Senator John McCain was on the show yesterday, and when I asked him about Putin's op-ed, this is what he said.
I'd like to have a chance to have a commentary in Pravda.
Not going to happen, probably, right?
If that would happen.
McCain would like a response. Now, interestingly enough, John Hudson of foreignpolicy.com reports that the English editor of the Russian publication, Pravda, now says, Mr. McCain has been an active anti-Russian politician for many years already. We've been critical of his stance on Russia and international politics in our materials, but we would be only pleased to publish a story penned by such a prominent politician as John McCain. Jackie, your take on this? Should he take the opportunity to write an op-ed in Pravda?
McCain or President Obama?
Well, McCain.
Why not, right?
I mean, think President Obama should?
President Obama, I don't think, has much to gain from that. Unless, he and Putin want to start doing it in the Washington Post op-ed page, then, anytime.
Right, on your show.
Totally. So, but, as far as President Obama doing it, I don't think he has much to gain. For McCain, why not? I mean, this is something he talks about a lot. I don't think he has anything to lose.
What's the response at the National Review when you picked up the New York Times and saw the op-ed from Vladimir Putin? What was your take?
Well, we thought that, certainly I thought, that Putin was sort of doing his victory dance over having gotten this new role in the Middle East that Soviet and then Russian leaders have been trying to get for decades.
Yeah, it's a complete insult. And he's preening and promoting himself. There is a kernel at the heart of it, which is he seems like he does want to help get the chemical weapons out of Syria. But the rest of it was deeply insulting. And I'd say John McCain had this guy's number from the beginning. When President Bush met with him the first time, said, I've peered in his soul, called him Pooty Poot, it was embarrassing. McCain, even though the president was of his own party, McCain stood up and said, I peered in his eyes too, and I saw 3 letters, KGB. So McCain's had his number from the beginning, and I think it'd be great for him to write an op-ed for Pravda. I'd love to see it.
One last note, in a new Drink Up campaign, the First Lady, Michelle Obama, is talking about how it's important for everybody to drink more water. Let's take a listen.
Drink just 1 more glass of water a day and you can make a real difference for your health, for your energy, and the way that you feel.
Of course, there came some blowback in Politico. As we would expect, Stanley Goldfarb, professor of medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, says that these claims are not based in fact, especially more energy. But I do know one Republican senator who would definitely be on board with this program. Marco Rubio, of course, as we know, is a fan of the water. It seems like first ladies run for these non-offensive programs. Drink more water, read books, and yet you can't escape criticism on anything in this town.
No, I guess we can't call this Watergate, though, right?
No, not Watergate.
Sorry, I had to. I couldn't help myself.
This reminds me of when the left and my people attacked Nancy Reagan for leading a campaign against drug use. I mean, it was a wonderful thing she did. And my party, because we were so blinded by partisanship, attacked her for that. That was shameful. I think this is of that sort of ilk. As a parent of 4 kids, it's absolutely true that if you can get them to drink more water and less soda, less sugary, even fruit juice, it's better. And the first
that is
right.
Unstated in this campaign, though, is the idea.
It's not anti-soda. It's pro-water, and the beverage companies,
Yeah,
the bottling companies are all for it.
Yep.
But the science